Welcome to Death Row.
Like we always do about this time.
I'm gonna fight your fucking ass!
You're playing touch butt with that dork in the park.
There's a little snake in the grass.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
No forget Jesus, people.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I'm back.
Who the fuck is that guy? Break out the red panties. We're rich, baby.
I would like to introduce...
Welcome to the MMA4Money Show, episode 41. In this show, we will review I vs. Calvillo and preview UFC on ESPN 11 Blades vs. Volkov. I am Bob Voss, your favorite guardsman at MMA State of Mind, here with Mike Copenhaver. You can find him at Don't Cope Just Win on Twitter. Also follow the show on Twitter at MMA4Money Show. Shares out a bunch of stuff from the show, as well as videos, tips, you name it, bets, all of it. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Just stoked to be here after another UFC win. A little sad that we didn't get two bets in, but at least we got one of them, and it was absolutely fun to watch the combat last weekend, and I hope that they have just as an exciting of a UFC event this weekend.
Yeah, as Mike said, we'll get into that. That was a little disappointing, but you know what? It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. The MMA4Money Show is here. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, just the straight RSS feed. You could also find us on YouTube, both full-length shows as well as smaller tidbits to get your fix. Subscribe and never miss a show. Like, comment, and share to spread the word. Now, we are talking about the I vs. Calvillo fight card. First off, Anthony Ivy was supposed to step in the Mearshart Heinich fight, but that didn't happen, so they gave him a chance here versus Christian Aguilera. He was a fairly heavy favorite in this one, but you know what? He got himself TKO'd in round one in just under a minute, 59 seconds, and this started off a lightning fast prelims of nonstop action, stoking everyone's fire that don't judge every fight card by who's on it, blah, 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 blah. But I'm sorry, there still was not enough name value. Just because there's finish, it doesn't make it a good card. It just makes it an exciting card. Because
just tell us if they tell us before time that you got us a scrub card that's going to have a bunch of finishes, then we'll tune in.
Exactly. I mean, it's just like if you go back to the Strike Force cards, like at the very top of them, like the top, like main event, co-main event, those are competitive. Everything else was a very specific style matchup that would lead to finishes. It's all about matchmaking. Either way, Ivy got himself TKO'd. I don't know, Christina Aguilera looked good, but I don't have much context for him beyond that, so I don't have much. I mean, good finish. So, Mike, thoughts on the finish or move on?
Yeah, move on.
Yeah, we're going to kind of go a little rapid fire through some of these because, I mean, the prelims themselves were rapid fire. The next fight got canceled. Jordan Griffin versus Derek Minner did not happen. Then in the next fight after that, Ryan Benoit, who we liked and had a bet on in that fight versus Tyson Nam, that got canceled. And then Nam got fought against Adashev, I think is how I have it written down. Well, you know what? Nam laid that dude out in about 30 seconds, 32 seconds to be exact.
It was a gift from him.
Right. Oh, man. He had that counter right. The dude fell straight to the ground, and then he dove at him. Like, it was almost like he was racing the ref to get one more in, and just, like, unlaid one more as the dude was already stiff. It could have been a walk-off, but apparently Nam had a little bit the little built-up issue he wanted to let go on that guy's face. Mike, how'd you think about that finish and the lightning fast second shot?
Oh man, it was an awesome performance by Tyson. I mean, the shot that he hit him with sent him literally across the cage, and it doesn't happen very often because you don't see mismatches like Tyson Nam and the scrub. I don't know if any of you saw the weigh-ins, but if you know anything about athleticism or anything, if you saw the dude that Tyson Nam was fighting up at the scales and the weigh-ins and the face-off, you knew right then that you should bet every damn penny you had on Tyson because Tyson was going to smash the dude, and he did exactly just that. It was absolutely epic. Reminded me of some blood sport type fanatics, and I love that type of stuff. I wish they do mismatches more often. I mean, make it entertaining. You talk about entertainment, sacrifice the scrubs.
Exactly. I mean, that's one thing I'm a little bit would wish they would do a little bit more boxing style is like feed these guys some looks so they can get some experience, but they have a lot more talent then. It's like more often than not, it's gonna be an exciting finish. Like when you got Tyson Nam fighting a guy that looks like a sack of potatoes. I mean, he's gonna lay that dude out, and he absolutely did. Next on the first round sacrifice hour, Julia Avila was a huge favorite, biggest favorite on the card. Yeah, even bigger than Davishvili. Biggest favorite on the card, just laid waste to Gina Mazzani, which we basically said she would, but in 22 seconds she did, landing a knee to the body and then follow-up punches. I mean, Avila's looking real good. I mean, obviously it's not hard to look good against Gina Mazzani, and this just added to the ridiculous finishes that happened on this fight card. Mike, anything specific on this one, or just Mazzani being Mazzani?
But definitely Mazzani being Mazzani. But Avila looked incredible for who she was fighting. It just sucks when you can't get a decent line on a fight like this because she was going to do exactly what she did and she just destroyed her. So I can't wait for her to fight someone more athletic so we could see something more entertaining even.
And how I originally have the fights listed, I know it didn't happen in that order because Ray Borg fell out. His son, who, and if anyone knows the story, has had some serious health issues, had a minor scare, so he dropped out quick. Borg was replaced by Gustavo Lopez. Davishvili was huge favorite over. And honestly, in the first round, early goings of the first round to the tail end, when Davishvili got that takedown, was looking real game, was landing really good calf kicks, and I think was actually on the way to winning the round. He landed more cleaner, harder shots, but then Davishvili took over, and then took over the remainder of the fight. I actually can't wait to see Gustavo fight more in the UFC because it was beyond impressive to me, especially to look that good on short notice versus Davishvili. And I guess Davishvili needs a top 10 fight after this, but utter dominant win from the Georgian. Mike, anything specific on Merab Davishvili or Gustavo Lopez?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much know Merab was, what he did and what he is. He's an animal, but he's kind of exposed in the sense of his striking to me is not world class, and that's why Gustavo Lopez was so successful to me. Gustavo Lopez on short notice, with not even having time to prepare for his opponent, showed us pretty decent hands in a game that even Merab was scared of, so that's why he took him down every single time that Gustavo laid hands on him. And either way, it was a great performance by Merab in the end. But I'm with you. I want to see Gustavo fight someone not on short notice and give him some time to train for someone else.
Hannah Cifers got herself submitted for the second time in about 4 weeks. She lost to Mackenzie Dern not that long ago, and you know what? She lost again. Maria Agapova, the Kazakhstanian fighter, was a huge favorite. Got that rear naked choke early in the first round, and I don't know, at this point with two fairly quick submission losses. I believe the last one got into the second round. Hannah Cifers is likely going to get her walking papers. Mike, how slick was this submission, and good enough that you're excited to see Agapova fight better talent in the division, or just this was pretty low bar for her?
I'm pretty upset with myself. Her number was pretty high in general. Agapova, I think it was negative 300 or more. But she, as I studied her, she seemed to be super, super aggressive and long, and she's strong for for being a lady, and she's definitely a problem. She is going to be a problem. She reminded me of a much bigger Joanna Jędrzejczyk, but much more vicious because she really tries to apply the elbows to your face. The submission was impressive in the sense of she didn't even need to pull off the sub. She could have just kept pounding and smashing. But she is really impressive, and it's just showing you there's significant gaps in women's MMA that's why I like to bet on them. If you could lay your whole house on this matchup, if you do some tape study, Agapova was for sure going to smash Cifers. Cifers is strong and a cute girl and definitely athletic, but she wasn't anything going to be the matchup for this girl, Agapova, and she sure showed that.
Next up was a fighter that we actually really liked and contemplated a bet on. to give out for this one. Jordan Espinoza, at the time of our show, was minus 155. He started to climb more after that. I think by fight time, he was in the minus 165, 170 range against Mark De La Rosa. Espinoza gets the decision. He looked good. One of the reasons we stepped away from it is we were a little bit worried on De La Rosa's BJJ game on the ground if Espinoza got tired, but we did like him, and like we said, he was super close to a bet. We ended up going with Benoit instead, but in hindsight, since the Benoit fight got canceled, I guess that would have been a good thing to go with. But I mean, hindsight being 2020. But again, Espinoza gets another win. Mike, I know he is one of the guys that you've been championing about since he's been in the UFC and has made us quite a bit of money. How'd you like his performance here?
Yeah, I just kind of kicked myself too on that one because I've believed in him for so long. But sometimes it's either he shows mental lapses where I can't trust him fully, but he really does have some great wrestling and some really good striking, and he showed that in this fight that he was just far more superior than De La Rosa in every way. I like the way that he keeps distance and range, and for all the movement and explosive stuff he does, his cardio, it could be, you could say it's bad, but he's doing a lot of stuff in his performance. So it is what it is, and it's nice to see him get a win because I believed in him since the beginning.
Next up, a fight that, going back, I cannot remember if I called, but I know for sure you called because we picked this fight, and Charles Rosa was a plus 150, so decent sized underdog, versus Kevin Aguilar minus 170. Rosa won the split decision here, and I was fairly torn on the fight, and I think I ended up picking Rosa, but had no way very confident in it. But you were a little bit more championing on the Rosa side, and the underdog gets the split. So did you end up scoring it for him, or was this a bad decision?
It was another one I called for sure. I picked Rosa. I thought he was the more OG, had the more experience, and had the overall better game. And I thought he won the fight just barely, but I mean, Aguilar was coming at him with some mean ass punches, and he did not want any part of those. He got hit a bunch of times, and I could see the fight kind of going either way, or going to a draw even. I really don't think they do enough draws. There's so many fights where it's just not clear enough, and so automatically it should just be put in the draw category,
No, we've absolutely talked about that before with incredibly close rounds. My typing out of the order and the order that actually happened once the Ravor Merab Davishvili fight changed switched a lot of stuff. But you know what? Next up, we're going to talk about Andre Fili and his split decision win over Charles Jourdain. I know for sure pre-show last week I had talked to Mike how much I like Fili here. I thought it would be a clear win for him, but there are just certain times where Fili finds himself in closer decisions than he needs to. So this did not end up being a bet, which honestly, even though he did come out with the win, it was much closer than I would have anticipated it being, because Jourdain is on the come up. And if these guys would rematch in 6 months to a year from now, I think it would be a clear win for Jourdain. So if we would have won, it would have been by the skin of our teeth. So that ends, and you can only handle so many of those decisions a night, especially if you got money on it. Your anxiety can only handle so much. So I'm glad we didn't bet on it. Kudos to Fili, but like we've talked about in the past, he's kind of at his ceiling now, and it's a hard stop. And there's going to be substantial guys that are ranked that are ahead of him. So this fight made me more excited about Charles Jourdain's future than anything. Mike, how'd you score this fight? Did you go Fili? Did you go Jourdain? And who did you walk away with more impressed by?
Oh man, this was a great fight, and ended up being there was a lot of damage given up for both guys, and Jourdain was super impressive. I believe he had some really good kicks to the body of Fili that was pretty worrisome. And anytime I see those from guys and people backing up from them, I really pay attention, and I give them points on my mental card as we go through the fight. But Fili to me did edge it out. He had just him, outmatched on almost every single way in most of the positions they were in. I think you're right though. If there was another match, a rematch of the two down the road, that Jourdain would be the person that would be able to overcome the rematch and probably win that one with Fili. But either way, it was a great fight. This whole card was a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
In terms of entertainment and everything, this fight card more than surpassed to where it was supposed to be at. But like we said at the beginning, something exceeding your excitement expectations based off finishes isn't the same thing as name value. Well, so a name that everyone's going to have to start looking at, a name that we have been super high on and our only bet on this fight card after Benoit fell out, Marvin Vettori, the Italian Dream. I mean, I know he's my Italian Dream. He was minus 220 favorite over Carl Robertson plus 180, and I know that is on the heavy side in terms of a favorite, but he looked it here. It was close in the early goings, but the moment he got a dominant position, he got the finish. He got a first round rear naked choke, the tail end of the round, 4:17, I believe was the exact count on that, and he looked great. He didn't let... I mean, he had some serious rage going into this fight with Robertson falling out the last time and then missing weight this time. Vettori is the type of dude, I'm starting to find that out of hearing some of his interviews and what certain journalists say about him. He is a guy that will find a way, like a personal way, to hate you. And going forward, fighting people, that's good. He'll find motivation just about every single person he fights. He's going to be a tough out for just about everyone, and he's getting better, and he's young, and he's getting better. So this cash for 1 unit, sorry, we only had one bet on the fight card. We had one drop out, and in hindsight, I guess it should have been bigger, but I mean, winning night, 1-0. This was just to win 1 unit because he was a heavier favorite. Typically, once it gets over minus 200, we don't go higher than to win a unit other than very certain special circumstances, and this wasn't quite it, but there are other ones that have been. And
yeah, it was close. It was definitely close to being one. I mean, the whole point of us doing a show is to show you guys that, how we love MMA and to show you a different side of a betting perspective, and also to win money. If we lose, like I said, we went on a run of like 5+ units, and then we lost 4 or 5 units, and then our point was to come back this show and to win another unit, and that's what we did. We don't just go and just come back with a blatant 5-unit slam on whoever it may be, because that's just not smart. We wanted to come back and get a win, and that's exactly what we did with Marvin Vettori.
Well, and still MMA, because of one of those big swings that may even have been the right side, but like you and I were talking about, and we'll get into it when we get into the next fight card, it's like there are chances where fluke knockout happens or a quick submission happens, and the better fighter doesn't always win, even if your thoughts on the fight are dead on. So it's like, to want to get that money back and to go big right away, I think it hurts you more often than not than helps you.
Yeah, it's just negligent. And so I was so stoked on Marvin Vettori's performance, because if you listen to Bob and I's show last week, Bob pointed out first off that his jiu-jitsu game was just not going to be up to par. For Vettori's is going to be way higher than Roberson's, and it was going to be clear. And I backed that fully, and there you saw that in the fight. It was a great fight. No discredit to Roberson. I mean, it's just what happens sometimes when you roll up against another monster, and you just have no match for his game. And Vettori just seemed to have every single situation that Roberson threw at him already matched, so it's just like chess. He already had that piece solved, and he was already on to the next, and it was just an awesome performance by Marvin. Like you said, we wish we max bet it after losing Benoit. We would have, and personally, Bob and I definitely slammed it more ourselves. But it's, like I said, this is a show that we want to show you guys how to bet at least somewhat professionally, in the sense of all betting is somewhat degenerative. But I don't know if I said that correct, but
no, you're right on par with that.
Yeah.
Right.
So either way, we love what we do, and we try to do it and get better, not do it and just throw out a bunch of bullshit imaginary units. So if we want to do that, we could just go throw out 100 units on whoever.
Exactly. And I think we're a little bit different in regards to just wanting to get the win back, to get you guys back in the positive, because if we would have broke even or had a winning night the last event when we got butchered, this would have likely been a max bet, because we were both that confident in them, but we just wanted to just get money back in your bank account, not just go
that's
too,
what sucks, is that
not get too emotional and just be like, no, we like him. He's the one we like the most. So that means it has to be the biggest bet. It's the biggest bet. And
It's all because Rocco Martin beat Neil Magny, and that was bullshit.
Yeah.
At least we would have had one.
That's right. We would have had one. We would have at least had one, which would have eased that down quite a bit.
Shout out to Rocco Martin. Shout out to Rocco Martin for the retweet on the hated video. But you know, it's just sometimes we're little mad fans over here, bro. You know, don't get mad. Just we love it, you too.
Well, considering mad fans, and me and Mike have a thing going right now where, and it might change when certain things happen, but we're kind of on a consistent thing where we're not betting the main event. We're just, for whatever it is, it doesn't do well for us. And as odd as that is,
Don't like the main event right now. Just gonna sit back and wait.
We're just gonna sit back and like eventually it'll probably be back in there depending on the matchup. But I mean, we've been staying away for the last few events, and I know we don't have one on the upcoming one. But
like a ninja in the cave sharpening the stone on my sword, waiting for the moment for a main event.
Exactly. And this main event was never going to be one of them anyway, because Jessica I was fighting Cynthia Calvillo, which, I mean, everybody dumped on this main event, and it wasn't the best fight in general.
I have seen worse, so
obviously seen worse. There's definitely been worse. There's definitely been worse, even with bigger name cachet. But I mean, I was talking all kinds of smack about people who miss weight, about saying this shouldn't be a main event, and then she missed weight. She was gonna miss by over 3 pounds, and then miraculously only missed by 0.2.
It was fishy.
It was fishy. Where like, I mean, obviously, like. She says she had trouble walking, and by trouble walking, she means her entire hands, palms, and weight had been pressed against the curtain that they brought out for her when they were going to give her the weigh-ins. And hey, that 0.2 pounds, that's probably the mask. That's for sure the mask.
She screamed for joy and started crying right when they told her that. If you heard it in her voice, she started crying. And the dude, she stood on the scale this time, and the dude was like, "It's good, 116.2." And I was like, "Wait, she barely." Everybody else, you were like, "Can you please hold steady, please? Can you please hold steady for 5 seconds?"
It doesn't matter. It was still 30% of her purse.
Yeah, because that's why UFC was okay with it. They're like, "Oh, 30% of this bitch's purse." Oh yeah, we're good. Yeah. Well, that's why people don't realize it's a business. It's crazy.
And Calvillo was pretty much one-way traffic the whole time. Got the unanimous decision. I mean, at no point really looked like she was going to lose that fight.
So what I'm trying to figure out is like in Hollywood we have like construction coordinators whose job is to figure out how to get a group of guys like myself, carpenters, together to fulfill the blueprint and the idea for like Netflix's The Prom, coming out in 2021 per se. They will get us together and they have a certain budget, right? What is the budget that they are shooting for each event that they on the payroll, right? They only want a certain number, right? And I've been trying to figure out, is it 250? Is it 290? Is it 490? What's not
an
number?
Event thing though. They have if I remember right, obviously it's skewed now because they don't have the live gate, but it's like a quarterly type thing. So, because that's the hilarious part, because we're gonna go to this next event and I think there's probably at least 3 fights that aren't the main event on this next fight card that could have been the main event over this one.
Oh yeah,
that's the weird thing. But I mean, this is one of the few ones that this fight card was.
But you know how much I think they paid out last weekend. They paid out, but like no money to that main event compared to a main event that you and I are talking about. Yeah. So that's what I'm getting at is, as a business, last weekend. I feel like they fucking cleaned up money wise, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because I and Calvillo paying for a main event. Oh, none of you bitches are getting a pay-per-view spot. None of you guys get nothing. You're getting this. Here's 30 grand, ho. Here's 60 grand, ho. Both of you go shut up and go eat grits. And now, but if that was Alistair Overeem versus Mark Hunt, right? Or whoever, those two, that payday is so much bigger, right? Automatically.
Yeah, but Overeem still has that. He was one of the few, I think if I remember right, he is the only UFC fighter. No, he's the only UFC fighter that Lorenzo Fertitta signed personally.
That's true. So that's different.
He had a sweet.
He does have a good one. So
6-figure deal when he came over per fight.
But even if it was, Dustin Poirier versus Eddie Alvarez, or Eddie Alvarez versus Gaethje before he got huge, that would have costed still more than Calvillo I in this main event spot or whatever this was. It's. I think as a business though, I think they cleaned up last.
Oh yeah, this entire fight card in general. Like if I would go up and down, like I'm just glancing on the names here. There is not a person on this entire fight card that I think makes more than 50 and 50.
Dude, this next fight card, I'm stoked for. I looked at it, and after looking at last week's fight card, and then looking at this week, I could not pick a bet. If the real degenerate in me wants to give out at least 6 bets this week.
Well, that's the hard part with the last fight card. We to struggle until we looked a little bit closer. Other than Vittori, we were struggling. We were going to go full degen for a little bit. But you know what? Speaking of which, you're talking about this great fight card. We're going to jump into this next great fight card, this Blades versus Volkov fight card, which is a fantastic main event. That's a great main event. And really the only fight I'm down on is the very first fight, and it's because there was a dropout in the fight, and even then, it's what it is. Austin Hubbard, who's a low-level team elevation guy, and we're saying that because we're starting with a low-level team elevation guy, and we're ending the event with a extremely high-level team elevation guy. He's the underdog versus a guy I have never heard of, and I am going to right now struggle through his name. His name is Max Roskopf. And I probably butchered that. I apologize. He's the favorite. I have no idea on this fight. I don't know who this fighter is. And as before, I have always said I'm never going to BS you and say I have info on a fighter that I do not. So I'm not even going to pick on this one because that's how little I know about this guy. So Mike, do you have a quick pick on this one? Otherwise, we'll move on to a veteran WMMA fight.
The only thing that I know about Max Rothkopf is that he has some really, really good American wrestling, and that's all I could tell you that has any insight on why he would be the favorite over someone that has more experience than him and I believe the Octagon. But I anytime you give me an American wrestler and you give me a close to 150 to negative 150 to negative 130, I believe that wrestler is going to take him down all 3 rounds, whoop his ass for 15 minutes. So I'll go with Max Roskopf or whatever his name was because the fact that he is a wrestler.
I'm just going to call him Maxie from now on. Next up, I'm going to say favorite of the show in terms of WMMA, Roxanne Modafferi. She made me look like a real smart person, so I'll give her more credit than she's probably even due. She is a slight favorite, minus 120, versus Lauren Murphy, plus 100. These are some serious WMMA veterans, if you go back. These have been names here for a very long time, to the early days of female MMA. I think Lauren Murphy is about what she's always been. I just think she's incredibly well-rounded compared to these new hotshot prospects that have one or two things that they're really good at and are more athletic, but she just has just enough veteran savvy to outdo them. The hard part for her is now she's fighting against Roxanne Modafferi, who has all of that and then is actually getting better since going to Syndicate there in Las Vegas. Obviously, the way better Vegas gym in terms of most people I talk with. I think Modafferi is going to win it here. The hard part is it's a close fight in terms of odds, and it's for sure going to go to decision. I don't think either of them are going to finish it. Modafferi is good on the ground, but she does not have power on the feet, and she's not slick on the ground. She's technical, which is going to be tricky against Lauren Murphy, who has loads of experience. So if I had to say something, I guess not crazy, but maybe better odds for anyone out there that really, really wants a bet on this card, which is, I guess, odd for me if you really, really need a bet on this fight card. But, I mean, Modafferi by decision is plus 150, and if she's going to win, that's kind of the way I would go with it. But for sure, picking Roxy here. Mike, are you going with Modafferi or going with Murphy?
Man, on this one, I've been bouncing back and forth, and the problem with this one is I don't like Lauren Murphy. I don't like her at all. She's just one of those people that I just don't freaking like, and so I don't know if that is just because I had that same pure hatred for Tony Martin at one point, and so that blinded me when he became Rocco Martin. So then I switched I'm like, okay, you can't be so blind on Rocco Martin being changed. So then I switched to liking Rocco Martin, and I get screwed by Rocco Martin. So now I got Lauren Murphy, who I absolutely despise, But then I was like, all right, well, let's just try to be positive. She has done pretty good. She hasn't shown me much failure lately, which is crazy to me. It went mind blowing when I want to bet on her every single match. You know, Roxanne should beat her. She has better grappling to me. But what I worry about is if Roxanne's boxing is not up to par, and that gives me a little bit of trouble because grappling is only good if you are not getting hit in your face. There's like a saying that punch a black belt once, turn them in a purple belt, punch a purple belt twice or two times, you turn them in a blue belt. Either way, the point is you keep punching people and they stop me remembering what to do. Not all black belts are badass combatants that are going to be stepping in the octagon. They're badass jiu-jitsu artists. They're good in jiu-jitsu matches. They don't on the daily want to get punched in the face. So I'm worried about Roxanne getting punched in the face too many times and then her getting wobbled. But I would say that Roxanne is going to edge a split decision because she's a little bit bigger and just weird.
Definitely on that. Now, early on in this fight card, we have our first bet. Frank Camacho is plus 105 versus Matt Frivola, minus 125. Frivola is getting a lot of love because he was an underdog who beat Luis Pena, who probably should not have been that big of a favorite and was throwing wild stuff and was still thinking he was winning. And Camacho has a ridiculous amount of advantage over Frivola, but you know what? I'm not even going to tell you the bet on this card, because the bet for this fight, because Mike is the one who brought this angle to my attention. So Mike, what is our bet? And break down Frank Camacho versus Matt Frivola for us.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everyone, it's just what have you done for me lately? And lately, Matt Frivola gave you a win versus Luis Pena, and it was a great performance. He did everything he needed to do to Luis Pena, who was not expecting anything but to just steamroll through a guy that the UFC was feeding him. That's what I truly believe was supposed to happen last time, and it did not happen. But if you go back and watch that fight, it was a very hairy fight. I would have called it a draw. You could call it either way. Obviously, I feel like the big guys, meaning the casinos, they cleaned up on Luis Pena losing, is what I feel, because he was a big parlay buster, big money, tag that people hit. So. But Frank Camacho is my boy. He's from Guam. I back a lot of dudes from Guam because my brother's from San Diego, and we have a lot of Foci boys who are the original clothing line from Guam. And they bring some hard dudes. Any Polynesian, Islander, anyone Guamanian, any one of you dudes, New Zealanders, we always got your back on this show. And Frank Camacho is definitely going to be on this in our picks for this reason. He is a hard dude. If you put him and Matt Frivola in an alleyway, like I always like to say, he is not going to have a good day. It's going to seriously be it's going to be murder. You don't want to see this thick Guamanian dude go up against this somewhat athletic, dorky white dude who's gotten around for a little bit with some athleticism. I really believe that Frank Camacho has everything jiu-jitsu wise for Matt Frivola and is stronger, and his hands are way heavier. He's not coming in there like Luis Pena came in there doubting Matt Frivola. He's coming in there to smash Matt Frivola. He's coming in there to hurt him. Luis Pena thought he was going to do that and didn't put any respect in Matt Frivola. Well, Camacho is a different dude. He's not in that mental state that Luis Pena was, and he's going to come in there and I believe just murk Matt Frivola and leave him there unconscious. So that's why we're going to be putting the 1 unit bet down on him at plus, I believe, 105, and that will be our first bet to start the day.
And one thing that I'm starting to love, and obviously we didn't do it in the last one, it's much later in the fight, and we've talked about this before, is getting you guys those wins early on in the fight card, because then you can just sit back and enjoy the rest of the fight card after getting these wins. But I'm with Mike on there. Oh, it feels so good.
When you get the first win, dude, it's just like, dude, the second one, I didn't even care almost, because the first one covered it.
Well, especially like if you're going to go on this card, because we're actually to give you a hint, okay, we have 3 bets on this fight card. You get those first 2. I mean, there's nothing's going down. You just automatically are just riding high the rest of the
Plus
fight card.
money the whole day. Oh yeah,
yeah.
we've given our fans that plenty of times, and it'll be back just like last week.
Well, speaking of, our very next fight in this fight card is Courtney Casey. She's plus 100 versus Jillian Roberts, who is minus 120. And yes, we said we're going to have a bet on this fight card. And you know what? It's Courtney Casey. She's bigger. She is stronger. I think she will stop any head and arm or possible attempt at a takedown from Jillian Roberts and outmuscle her against the cage. Because one thing everyone keeps talking about is at the apex, they're in these smaller cages, and that's going to make everything more action-packed. And now everyone's going to think that, especially after the last fight card where there was a lot of finishes. Well, the other thing it does is it gets you to the fence faster. I see Casey pushing Roberts against the fence for the majority of the fight, dirty boxing, just straight up controlling her. And we have another bet on this that is 1 unit on Courtney Casey at plus 100 to win 1 unit. Mike, tell me why and how Courtney Casey's going to make Robertson just look silly.
Yeah, man, Courtney Casey has been doing this a lot longer than this other chick, and I really believe that her jiu-jitsu game is so underrated in the women's division that because she doesn't really get a chance to showcase it. But Robertson, that's what she thinks she's good at, and that's going to be a bad day versus someone longer. Like I've told you, I've said it many times. Someone with a longer frame. That you think you're a good jiu-jitsu and they're good at jiu-jitsu, the longer frame person is usually better. It sucks. And if it's not the longer person, it's someone with a better wrestling base after that in the scrambles. So I really believe that Courtney Casey has everything to offer striking wise too for Robertson. And I think that she's gonna be able to just punish her in her face with her boxing. She's crisping it up a lot in the last few years. She's throwing a lot of straight combinations together, and I really believe that she has the chance to back Robertson even up against the fence and throw a couple of combinations to her face, and then go in for a takedown and do what she wants to her on the ground. But it's women's MMA, so I just go with a decision win most likely will happen from our girl Courtney Casey. But I believe it will come pretty dominantly, and it'll be a something that will. I just can't wait for. So we're going to be putting down what was the odds on that, Bob?
Plus 100 for Courtney Casey.
So at even money right now, we'll put down another unit down on Courtney Casey to win that money versus inexperienced Robertson.
Next, we have a battle of guys to keep their UFC job. Marc-Andre Baralt is plus 105 versus Oscar Pichota minus 125. They are both on 3-fight losing skids. This is an odd fight. But you know what? I am going with the underdog in terms of a pick. There is by no means a bet on this. We are not doing 3 in a row bets on this undercard with this fight being one of the next ones.
It felt like we were about to roll.
I know. It felt like we were about to roll. But that confidence that I came in there with.
I know.
Absolutely.
We felt good.
Yeah, we felt good. But, I mean, these guys are both not doing so hot in the UFC. We will put it that way. But at least Marc-Andre Baralt, I mean, he's 11-4. I mean, 3 of those losses are from the UFC. His nickname's Power Bar, which is a little ridiculous. But he's actually made it to decision in all of his losses, which sounds kind of odd, but I mean, they're against relatively deep or good competition. It was against Andrew Sanchez. He has a split decision loss versus Krzysztof Jotko. Jun Young Park, which we've learned is actually a fairly good fighter there at middleweight, whereas Oscar Pichota has found himself finished in every single UFC loss. I mean, he does have a few wins in there, but they were against guys that aren't in the UFC anymore. He's been choked. He's been knocked out. And I'm surprised he's still in the UFC given how dominantly he's getting beaten. So you know what? I'm going to go with Marc-Andre Baralt. By no means a bet because one of these guys is leaving for sure. Mike, do you have a pick for Baralt versus Pichota?
Oh yeah, man. Marc-Andre Baralt is a savage compared to Picolta, or whatever you want to call Pinocchio. If you like, we're gonna go to a reference of dropping the dudes in an alley or having a dude to have your back. If you were like, hey, Mark, do you want Mark or you want Picolta or whatever his name is? I'm picking Mark, and Mark's gonna come in there. He's gonna lay hands on this dude. Oscar Picolta, however you say it, has got nothing but damage, and he's gonna continue getting that in this fight. I believe that Mark Andre is gonna come in there and just literally lay the hammer on his ass. And I'd probably pick a TKO KO prop of him winning. I think it's gonna come pretty easily.
Next up, we have a fading WMA star. Tisha Torres is plus 165 versus Brianna Van Buren, minus 190. People are fairly high on Brianna Van Buren. Not necessarily christening her the next in the division or anything like that, but in terms of where she's at and where Torres is at, obviously much higher on Van Buren.
I'm confused on Van Buren. I mean, I did some research, and I still don't see her what she's done.
Well, I think it's more the fact that, I mean, although it's decent names, Tisha Torres is on a 4-fight losing skid. So I think it's to a point where everyone just thinks that she's utterly done and is just like on a free fall for losing. I was impressed by the Livia Renato Souza fight because I thought Souza was going to win that one.
Yeah, that was the only one.
Yeah, that was the only one. I mean, Kaylin Curran, I mean, you need to be able to beat Kaylin Curran. It's just a thing. You can't. That's pretty sad. I don't get it either. I don't know why she's as big of a favorite as she is. I mean, there's a good chance that she could win. Just like she's younger, she's getting better. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure she has the reach advantage as well. I mean, they're both compact. They're both borderline.
Yeah, no, I was more just being a smartass. I was more just being a smartass. I just think that Tisha Torres has way too much experience to be doubting her yet. She hasn't shown me enough quit to be like that. Some girl who beat Kayla Curran is showing me enough yet. So it's weird to me to see that.
Oh yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's like, I mean, she's on a 4-fight losing skid, which that's saying something. But I mean, it's to Jessica Andrade,
Yeah,
Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Weili Zhang, Marina Rodriguez, like arguably 4 of the top like 7 in the division. Whereas like we talked about with Brianna Van Buren, it's like she doesn't have the name value behind her wins per se. Like I'm not even sure if she's beat anyone top 10. I'm not as good as the top 10.
What I'm hinting at is I think that Torres' decision prop would be a great sprinkle, whatever that is for someone.
Here,
because I can see that. I could see this Tisha Torres's determination on the ground being more than Van Buren's. There's just no way that Van Buren's striking is better than Tisha Torres after all these years. And if it is, I mean, I'm going to eat my words, but we'll see. But I don't see it.
Plus 210 for Torres by decision. So you're getting like 50 cents on that.
That's not enough.
Yeah, it'd be nice if that was bigger. It was a closer fight, but
money line is better than.
No, I get you. Next up, actually, we're going to have a lot of like throwback lightweight, at least fighters. Clay Guida is a big underdog, plus 215 versus Bobby Green, minus 250. Sorry, excuse me, 255. I'm a little surprised at the steepness here, just because Bobby Green likes to make fights close in terms of striking and actually takedown defense. I would say Bobby Green is the better fighter, but he has just had so much personal life issues that I don't know where his head's at, and I mean, you never know where Clay Guida's head's at. So I would probably just sit back and enjoy watching this fight, unsure where Guida is at. This is his first fight after getting first round submitted by Jim Miller quite a while ago, and I'm trying to on the offhand, like it's been quite a while for Green as well. Let me try to get I just looked this up. How long ago was that? His last fight was in November, was the loss to Trinaldo, and before that a loss to Close the year before that. And yeah, he's fighting super infrequently, so I don't know, I guess Guida, but I got nothing specific on that. Mike, how are you feeling about this fight?
Yeah, I think this is one of the ones that we just sit back and enjoy because it doesn't it seems weird, you know. I don't know who could win and who wants to be there more. Clay Guida is always going to come in there and give us a hard X amount of minutes. I do know that, and so it's going to be weird. I would say that just sit back and enjoy this. I don't even know if I can't even pick one of them.
Yeah, it's just an odd fight. So I would suggest not betting on it in any regard. Just with where each guy's at. Next up, they think that they are feeding Jim Miller to Roosevelt Roberts, but I'm not 100% too sure on that. Roberts is a minus 225 favorite over Jim Miller, plus 185. We all were all about Roberts because he choked out Brock Weaver a few weeks ago, and we were all pretty pumped on that one. But Jim Miller is a little bit different than Brock Weaver. I know that he is quite a bit long in the tooth. He is like closing in on 50 fights, and he has a decision loss in his last fight to Scott Holtzman. But I mean, apparently he's figured out his Lyme disease, which was his issue for a while, and has been bouncing back a little bit. And around that time is when he got a win over, I think it was Jason Gonzalez, and for sure Clay Guida before that loss to Holtzman. So this is definitely the biggest step up for Roberts. I would like to think that Miller has at least one more in him. So I have no bet on this fight. I wouldn't bet on this fight, just given the disparity of the jump and the experience. But I'm going to pick Miller and just, I don't know, always been a big fan, and I think he actually has the skills that he can pull it off. Mike, where are you at for Roosevelt Roberts versus Jim Miller?
Yeah, I mean, I love Jim Miller as a person and as a fan, but I think this is one of those situations where they're actually feeding the younger, more talented fighter someone, and I think that Miller's gonna just be that guy. It's gonna be fed to him this time, and it's gonna be unfortunate. I think Roosevelt Roberts is just too long. Has too diverse now. This is a whole new breed of fighter that he's gonna face. He's super athletic, Roosevelt Roberts. He's also a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and Chip Miller's a black, so it's not going to be too far off on game there. Roosevelt Roberts is longer, and so I believe I see why they lined Roosevelt Roberts as the favorite. So I think that he'll get it done. But as a fan, lifelong fan, I hope that Miller could have one more.
Next up is, yes, our next bet on this card. We do have three on this fight card. Lyman Good is a plus 100 underdog versus Bilal Muhammad minus 120. Muhammad is the bet. Lyman Good, this is his first fight back after contracting coronavirus. He actually missed an earlier fight he was supposed to have just around the time when everything broke because of the quarantine and everything like that. The post effects of having coronavirus dramatically affects your lung and breathing capacity. He already didn't have the best gas tank. It wasn't terrible, but it was by no means Muhammad level back then. And now I don't think it's even remotely close. Obviously, Good has a little bit of power, so that gives you a little bit of hesitancy, but Bilal Muhammad has a gas tank on him. He's willing to throw the takedowns in when he can get them. He is a volume guy, which I love in this spot for sure. He knows how to use the cage. And the bet is for Bilal Muhammad. He is minus 120, so it's 1.2 units to win. 1 unit, our third bet on the card. I just love Muhammad in this spot. I think Good, I think on his best day, would barely be able to beat, if not always lose, to Bilal Muhammad. And I think he's still compromised at this point. And if anyone's doing well, we all know it's Bilal Muhammad. So, Mike, any further breakdown on this, our third bet of this fight card?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a great fight. Bilal Muhammad is a super determined and well-trained fighter. He's mentally sound. He's one of the only guys who fights through Ramadan and on less nutrients than most people because he can't, I believe, can't consume certain things. And so I really like him just as a person in general and as a fighter. I think that he has a way better gas tank. He's definitely going to give me the 3 rounds in there, and at such close lines as almost even money, being negative 120. I really like that the number on that. I believe Bilal Muhammad will give us all 3 rounds and end up winning us a decision, if not finishing Ly Goodman after he gasses. So we're putting down the 1.2 units, I believe it is, right, Bob?
Yep. Next up, we have Tisha Torres's Lady. Raquel Pennington is minus 150 favorite over recently 40 turned Marion Renault, who's plus 130, the gym teacher, who honestly probably has a little bit more time to train right now because obviously schools are out. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe she actually had a full-time training camp for the first time in a long time. Raquel Pennington is not quite at the same free fall as Tisha Torres, but she has definitely seen better days in terms of competition, all starting with her failed titled bid. Then she had a loss to Deuteronomy. She did get a split win over Irene Aldana, who we've been fairly high on, and then a loss to Holly Holm. But Marion Renault is that caliber of athlete that she should beat. She's still better than that. Her boxing is still no offense to Marion Renault. I was high on her for a little bit. She is good on the ground, but I mean, Betch Correa was beating her in the striking, and Raquel Pennington's boxing is substantially better than that. So as long as she still has a willingness to fight, I think Raquel Pennington is going to win this here. But at minus 150, and the fact that it is still likely to go to decision and be a relatively close fight, I mean, if Renault gets some key takedowns, this could be a lot iffier of a fight. But the pick for me is Pennington. Mike, where are you at for this last female fight of the fight card?
Oh man, but Mary Renault is a person. She's a teacher, a mom. She's a great person. I tried to like her as a fighter numerous times, and she just, for a black belt, she has the worst fucking takedowns you could ever see. The worst takedown entries. She has no wrestling. It basically makes her jiu-jitsu non-existent because she cannot get a efficient takedown. She doesn't know how to single leg turn and dump. She doesn't know how to double leg turn and dump. She doesn't know how to double leg and dump. She doesn't know how to do anything when it comes to wrestling. So it's going to be a real bad day. I don't think that Raquel has had such a least caliber fighter as Mary Renault in a while. I think that she can easily keep the fight up standing and then box Mary Renault's face off, because Mary Renault is not. She doesn't have the striking for me to fall back on. Like I said, her wrestling, her jiu-jitsu is her number one thing. She can't even get there because her wrestling's so garbage. So to me, in a matchup like that, Raquel Pennington all day should be able to win this fight, and it should be pretty clear.
Next up in the co-main event, yes, we're already there. Josh Emmett, the alpha male elder statesman, which is kind of odd to say because obviously he's newer within the UFC, but he's already 35, so he's already getting up there for a featherweight, which is saying something.
He like 90.
Yeah, well, I'm fighting. Yeah, he got in the UFC real late. Like I'm
34. I'm 34, so just laughing.
Well, as a fighter, man, he looks like he should be 40. Like he's got that face of like a grizzled. I know we were talking about Mary Renault, but like a grizzled gym teacher that's going to make you climb that rope.
Bald-looking white turtle. That's what he looks like. A bald-looking white turtle.
Sorry, I'm laughing because it's true. And there's another guy I wanted to bring up from. I know it was he has the same body type as Merab Davishvili, where like 3/4 of their body weight is just their torso. It's pretty. It's very particular.
Ricky Simone
body type. Yeah,
he's like that.
Yeah. Josh Emmett has some serious power on him. He was on a surge for a bit before he had that orbital bone break by Jeremy Stevens, and I mean it was rough. He's bounced back with 2 wins since then against Michael Johnson and Mirsad Bektik. So I mean, kudos on that. In general, his caliber of competition has been higher than Shane Burgos. Shane Burgos, I mean, I guess Shane Burgos' biggest name that he's beat is Cub Swanson, but it's a faded Cub Swanson. He has a loss to Calvin Kattar. It's the only career loss, and I mean he's looked good. I mean, I don't know, I'm trying to throw Shane Burgos down too much because I do really like Shane Burgos, and in terms of all-around skill, I think he has more. But the harder thing is just Emmett just finds a place for that power, and Burgos has been knocked out before. I mean, a lot of people have been knocked out before, but I don't know. I just think that at some point Emmett's going to land, and I don't know if Burgos is going to be able to handle it. In terms of a fighter, Burgos is the better fighter, but we've talked about it before on this podcast today, that the best fighter doesn't always win. And I think this might be one of those times where Emmett does land and the underdog pulls it off. So I guess I'm going to go with Emmett. Actually, I wasn't even sure going into this breakdown which one I was going to go with. I've been going back and forth on this one quite a bit. It's the reason it's not a bet, but I think I'm picking Emmett, our little white Ninja Turtle. But Mike, where are you for this co-main event?
Oh, I'm going to Team MTNT, Mutant Ninja Turtles for life, dude.
TURTLE power.
I seriously, I think that Josh Emmett he just had some bad circumstances happen. You know, the Jeremy Stevens loss was, I don't even think it was late after the bell, or there was some controversy with that he, you know, when he got his orbital socket broken. I mean, he's given us some amazing performances, and he's laid out some dudes with some heavy hands. Burgos has shown that he does not like those heavy hands. But the one thing that Burgos does have that I do like is his boxing. He does have some better just straight boxing, but this is mixed martial arts, and he doesn't have kicks. And the kicks are what Emmett does have too, and that should pay dividends in this. So I think I'm going to go for sure with you on the white MTNT and go Emmett Power.
Going over this is going to be, I don't know if there's going to be as quick a finishes, but I would think that there's probably be just as many finishes on this entire fight card as the last one. Just the way everything matches up, this is going to be a real exciting fight card. In the main event, we have my Windy City champ, my local hero here, Curtis Blades. He is a ridiculous minus 390 favorite. I wish I would have gotten him. I didn't bet this at all. Minus 390 is a bit ridiculous. But when we did the show last week, I glanced at it and he was minus 200. I was like, ooh, I'm going to have to remember that. Well, apparently I snoozed and I lost. The rhyme doesn't quite work there. But now he's minus 390 for Alexander Volkov, who's plus 320. Volkov's coming off the win versus everybody's favorite former NFL Pro Bowler. And before that, I think before that was the Lewis fight, if I recall, when he was winning the entire fight in the last 15 seconds, got himself waylaid by Lewis, who has that sneaky power late. Blades is in his perpetual circle of I can beat everyone but Ngannou, which is frustrating, especially in their very first fight. In their very first fight, I think he was going to clearly win that one, but the doctor stopped it, and the next time around, Ngannou stopped it. I think, like we've talked about before, or at least I've said about this smaller cage, I think it's going to make it that much easier for Curtis Blades to push as Alexander Volkov against the cage and weigh on him and some dirty boxing and get him down and tire him out. And I actually do see Blades getting a finish here. I do not think it's going to go till much later in the fight. Him inside the distance is minus 195. Man, that's still super. I might wait for the round props and might throw some darts at like round 4, round 5, because that's when I think Blades might get a TKO. Other than that, I have no bet on this one, but I do think that Razor Blades is going to pull this one off and then find himself in just as difficult a situation in regards to the title. Mike, where are you at for the main event here? Blades versus Volkov.
Oh man, I wish I could have seen Volkov fight a wrestler before we got to this Blades matchup first. If you go back to his prior fights, there's really nobody on the list that he's fought that could give me any. I can't. There's nothing in his past history that shows me he's fought a wrestler and can handle the takedowns, and so because of that it makes it harder for me to be able to bet this. If he did and has a great takedown defense, then I would go with Volkov all day because his striking is 100 times better in kicking and striking wise. Power wise, it will go to Blades, single punch wise. But I don't think that long lanky dude can defend a single leg or a double leg long enough. And so I'd have to go. I'd have to go with Blades. He's going to be able to win this fight.
Closest I got for you with wrestlers he's fought in the past. We're both in Bellator. One wrestlers is, if you obviously we're not in video currently, but I'm doing parentheses with my fingers because this is the first loss was to wrestling chick Czech Congo, who just the pin up against the cage and the grab of the shorts and hold against for a decision.
That's a bad wrestling reference.
That was well.
I know.
In Bellator, that's pretty much what Czech Congo has done. And then against Timothy Johnson, he had a split decision win, but it was close. And then, I mean, Timothy Johnson, he's big and he's a wrestler, but he's like 1/100th the athlete of blades. So
Yeah,
that's the best comparison I can give you. I get for a wrestler.
so that's why it's a hard one to pick here, is because Volkov has not been tested by a real wrestler to me, and so we're gonna find out this weekend if he can defend a single or a double leg, and I hope that Curtis Blades can get him down on the ground and successfully do that. But if he can't, you better have that TKO KO prop on Volkov, because I think that he'd be able to handle him, because if he breaks Blades mentally in the first 2 rounds by stuffing him, he's in trouble. But I don't see that happening. That's why the money line is where it is.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just jealous I didn't catch it at that 2-1 that I saw last week, but I was just too focused on getting you guys to win last week to go too much in the future. And I guess I missed out on that. To review our bets for this card, for those who don't have to scramble back and try to rewrite things down or anything like that right away, we have a 1 unit to win, 1.05 on Frank Camacho. We have 1 unit to win 1 unit on Courtney Casey, and we have 1.2 units to win 1 unit on Bilal Muhammad. Now, we will be back next week. UFC on ESPN 12, Poirier vs. Hooker, is going on June 27th, which is an utterly ridiculous fight and a good fight card, but in terms of a fight, that's just phenomenal, and that one's going to be hard for me not to have a bet on the main event, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to commit to that one yet, but I don't know. I guess that one might not be worth it, but don't forget to subscribe to us on your platform of choice, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Casts, just the RSS feed that we have links to. Remember to subscribe to us on YouTube for both full-length shows as well as smaller tidbits of this show. Like, comment, and share to spread the word. And with that, let's roll.